Chosen one, you were told to watch this alone for a reason. Stop everything right now. Yes, pause. Stop scrolling. Stop multitasking. Stop dividing your attention between this and anything else. This is not random. This is not an algorithm accident. And this is definitely not background noise. If you're around people, step away for a moment. If there's noise in the background, silence it. If your mind is racing, planning your next move, your next task, your next worry, put it on pause. Because God just interrupted your entire day. And He did not interrupt you to whisper something ordinary. He interrupted you because this message cannot be heard in pieces. It cannot be understood halfway. It cannot compete with distractions. This is a divine appointment. You didn't find this video. This video found you. And what God is about to say will shift something in your spirit, but only if you are fully present. So take a breath. Focus. Lean in. Heaven is speaking. This was meant to be received alone, in stillness, with nothing competing for your attention. And if you cannot do that right now, bookmark this and come back when you can. Because what is about to be spoken requires your full presence, not your partial attention. Take a breath, a real one. Notice how your chest feels tighter than it should. Notice how your mind has been louder than usual. Notice how your spirit has felt crowded, even when you are physically alone. That is not random. That is not just stress. That is a spiritual activity. And God pulled you here, away from everything and everyone, to tell you what is really happening and why you need to stay quiet for just a little while longer. Let me start with this. The reason God told you to watch this alone is because what He is about to reveal cannot survive being filtered through other people's opinions, questions, or energy. Some truths are so personal, so precisely timed, so specifically assigned to you, that allowing anyone else into the room while you receive them would dilute their power. Like you're present in body, but your spirit feels somewhere else entirely. And you've been wondering what's wrong. You've questioned yourself. You've asked whether you're slipping into isolation, whether you're becoming antisocial, whether you're pushing people away. But chosen one, what if none of that is true? What if what you're experiencing isn't isolation at all, but insulation? What if God has been wrapping you in a spiritual cocoon, pulling you away from noise, from drama, from opinions, from expectations, and even from well-meaning voices that would unknowingly interfere with what He is doing inside of you right now? This is one of those messages. This is one of those divine interruptions that only makes sense to the person it was sent for. Everyone else would just hear words. But you're about to hear confirmation. You've been feeling isolated lately, haven't you? Not just physically alone, but emotionally distant, spiritually separated, like you're standing in rooms full of people, yet feeling completely disconnected from all of them. Like conversations are happening around you, but nothing truly reaches you. Nothing lands, because you are in formation. You're being reshaped. You're being recalibrated. You're being upgraded at a level so deep, it cannot happen in public. It cannot happen in casual conversations. It cannot happen while you're trying to explain yourself to people who wouldn't understand, even if you had the perfect words. So God removed the audience. He cleared the room. He quieted the voices, not to punish you with loneliness, but to protect you during transition. Now let me tell you why this protection was necessary. Someone has been testing you. Maybe more than one person. Not obviously, not aggressively, but subtly, strategically. They've been saying things that poke at old wounds, bringing up topics they know trigger you, asking questions that sound innocent but land heavy, making comments that seem harmless, yet leave you unsettled long after the moment passes. And the hardest part? You can't quite call it out, because on the surface it all looks fine, but your spirit knows. Your discernment detects what your logic cannot prove. There were moments you couldn't explain it. You couldn't gather evidence. You couldn't point to one clear sentence and say, that was wrong. But something inside you shifted. And you've been feeling crazy for being bothered by things that technically weren't attacks. But they were. They absolutely were. Just because someone smiles while they stab doesn't mean the knife isn't real. Just because someone uses soft words doesn't mean the intention isn't sharp. Just because someone sounds concerned doesn't mean they aren't watching to see how you react, to see if you'll defend yourself, if you'll over-explain, if you'll get emotional, if you'll break character, if you'll shrink back into an older version of yourself. It wasn't random conversation. It was pressure. It was subtle probing, testing your growth, testing your healing, testing your boundaries. And what made it even harder was that no one else seemed to notice. So you questioned yourself. Am I overthinking? Am I being too sensitive? Did I imagine that? No, you didn't imagine it. Your discernment was alert. And God saw it. God felt it. God said enough. Enough access. Enough subtle manipulation. Enough quiet attempts to pull you back into old patterns. That is why he pulled you away. Not because you were weak, but because you were growing. And growth must be protected. That is why he pulled you here. That is why he separated you. That is why he is telling you to stay quiet just a little while longer. Because if you respond now, if you defend yourself now, if you rush to explain yourself now, you will give access to people who no longer have clearance to your next level. Let me say that again because this is critical. Not everyone who had access to your last season gets access to your next one. Not everyone who knew the old you gets to know the new you. Not everyone who walked with you through the valley gets to walk with you to the mountain. Seasons change. Assignments change. Access changes. And silence is part of the transition. If you speak too soon, you expose what God is still building. If you explain too early, you invite opinions into a process that requires privacy. If you defend yourself prematurely, you reopen doors God already closed. This quiet season isn't rejection. It's restriction. It's divine security. God is guarding your upgrade, guarding your mindset, guarding your peace, guarding the version of you that is still forming behind the scenes. So stay quiet, not because you have nothing to say, but because you have too much at stake. And that is not cruel. That is not cold. That is wisdom. That is boundary. That is protection. Because the version of you God is unveiling cannot coexist with people who are still trying to relate to the version he already buried. You're not who you used to be, and the old access points don't fit anymore. You've been noticing it lately, haven't you? Your tolerance for certain things has completely disappeared. Conversations that once felt normal now feel draining. Jokes that once seemed harmless now feel heavy. Environments you once blended into now feel misaligned. People you used to enjoy being around now leave you exhausted. Not because they changed, but because you did. Your spirit has matured. Your discernment has sharpened. Your peace has become more valuable than being understood. Small talk feels smaller. Drama feels louder. Negativity feels heavier. And you can't unfeel it. You can't go back to laughing at things that no longer sit right in your spirit. You can't force comfort where there is no longer alignment. You can't pretend you don't sense the shift. And for a moment, you wondered if something was wrong with you. Maybe you thought you were becoming distant, detached, different in a way that feels uncomfortable. But this is not disconnection. This is elevation. Your spirit is adjusting to a higher standard. And everything that doesn't match it now feels obvious.
If this message touched your heart, and don't forget like and subscribe for more spiritual message.